I was born very early, okay? My dad told me that I could fit in the palm of his hand. It's not sounding right. We need to deliver this baby like ASAP. If they don't have an emergency C-section, she could potentially die, and because when she potentially died, would die too.
Oh snap! What's up, classy crew? How you been and how you do? Welcome to my YouTube. I'm excited to spend this time with you. Hey, 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 hey.
Hey beautiful child of God, it's Jasmine and welcome back to my channel, Stay Classy by Jazzy. I miss you guys so much. I took a much needed break after winter break just to kind of make sure I was refreshed and rejuvenated for my channel. I didn't want to come up and start pumping out content and then get really burned out way too easily, so I wanted to take the time to plan and be a little bit more intentional. But I'm super excited to be back with you guys. As you can see in the title, today's video is quite different. I've never done this video before. I'm going to share my testimony with you guys. I just feel like this is a really big act of obedience, but I'd rather be obedient than disobedient, and just kind of see why and understand why God wanted me to share this story with you all. And I hope you guys get to learn a little bit more about me. So let's get going. So you might be wondering, how did you know God wanted you to share your testimony with us? Your faith walk is different for everyone, and so for me, I get signs sometimes through dreams, sometimes through people speaking to me about a situation I never told them about, sometimes through, it sounds kind of like very 21st century, but like notifications on my phone through like the Bible app, or like a verse that comes through, or like an app that I have called She Who Is Called, and so on. About a week or so ago, I was reading a devotional. Something that really stuck out to me while I was reading it was saying that if you do not know how to share your faith, learn. But this is the part that stuck out to me, and it said, begin by writing out your testimony, the story of when and how you became a follower of Christ and the difference he has made in your life. Then share it and ask other believers to demonstrate the methods they use to lead others to Christ. So I'm like, ooh, testimony, that sounds familiar, because a couple months before that, I had a dream of a person randomly telling me that I should share my testimony. She was like, oh, you should share your testimony. I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should. And I kid you not, I promise you, everything I'm saying is 100% true. About a minute or two after I read a devotional telling me about like writing out my testimony, I get a notification from a She Who Is Called app, which you should download. It's really great. It's an app where you can get alerts and messages and really connect with other believers. It said, what you went through is no longer a trigger or pain point. It's your testimony. You are healed. It's time to heal and help others. And I was like, okay guys, so I got 3 signs from you. Okay, what's my testimony? In my mind, at least from videos and testimonies I've heard, people kind of had these moments where either they were a non-believer and God had found them in the midst of something and they became a believer through that experience, or maybe they are a believer but they strayed away from God or from the church. It seemed like an awakening moment that happened for them that was like their testimony, and they went through something that really was labor intensive, and they came out better than they came, realized that their strength came from God, or that there's someone really out there looking out for them. And for me, I was like, can't think of a moment in my life where I had like an awakening moment. And so I talked to my mom. I was like, I think I need to share my testimony, but I don't know what it is. And she was saying, you do have testimony. The fact that you're here right now speaking to me is your testimony. And I thought back to my birth story, and I was like, that's the beginning of my testimony. It was a testing of my parents and their faith, which produced my testimony and their testimony. And so I wanted to share that story with you today. The birth of what the hospital called me a miracle baby. So my testimony starts out with me being born prematurely. I was born a preemie, which is the little terminology, short, cute name for a premature baby, which basically means that I was born before my due date, or well before my due date. So sometimes that could be a couple weeks to a month or so, but for me, it was about 2, almost 3 months. I can't remember exactly if it was more on the cusp of at the end of the 2 months or dipping into the 3rd month, but I was born very early. Because I was born a couple months before my due date, I was still like very small in size. So I was born 1 pound and I believe either 13 or 14 ounces. I can't really remember which one. I was tiny. I was so tiny. My dad told me that I could fit in the palm of his hand. My head would be at the very top of his fingertips. My arms would be dangling around the side of his hand. and my arm and my legs would be dangling on his wrist. When he told me that, well, like, I would have been terrified, absolutely terrified to hold me. So because I was so small and still needed time to develop, I ended up staying in the NICU, which stands for Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, and everybody is a nurse and they're really interested in that, or a doctor, soon to be a doctor in medical school. My mom's a nurse, so that's why I know some of this terminology. I had to stay there for about the remainder of the time that I was supposed to be in my mom's womb, so I could actually get to a healthy weight where they could take me home. And that was the first thing that I remember when I was thinking back to my story as I was preparing to film this video about a testing of my parents' faith. Because I was so small, I didn't know it was existing, so it couldn't be a testing of my faith, so it was a testing of my parents' faith. And the fact that you expect to go to the hospital, give birth to your child, and then take them home within a couple days or so if things go right. Well, my parents couldn't do that, and so they had every day had to come and visit me in the NICU and just spend time with me, but know that when I left the hospital, they weren't leaving with me for another 2 or 3 months. The very first couple months of my life were lived in a hospital, not my home. That was a testing of my parents' faith to know that, believing that everything's going to be alright, that I was going to develop and become healthy enough to be taken home, which I eventually did. You're probably wondering, like, why in the world were we born 2 or 3 months early? My mom went in for a routine checkup, and they found that she had the presence of something called toxemia, and I'll put it right here. And so toxemia is a potentially dangerous pregnancy complication characterized by high blood pressure. I can't remember if my mom told me she explicitly had high blood pressure, but I know that she had some problems with her liver. And so they told her that they needed her to come in. I don't know if it was the next day or so. So she went home that night. She got up and made an egg sandwich and then went to lay back down, hoping that maybe she would feel a little bit better. And she didn't. So she called my doctor, and my doctor was like, hey, you need to come in. It's not sounding right. We need to deliver this baby ASAP. So my dad drove my mom to the hospital. I took her in, and I realized that she was getting worse. She was getting very sick to where her liver was starting to shut down. And my mom told me that her eyes, the whites of her eyes were starting to turn yellow. And then the doctor comes in and says that we need to have an emergency C-section right now because her body was starting to shut down because of the toxemia in her bloodstream. If they don't have an emergency C-section, that she could potentially die, and because when she potentially died, I would die too. I remember my dad was telling me that he was expecting the worst, and so were the doctors, but they were hoping for the best. My mom told me that I had a 50% survival rate, just the fact that her body was shutting down, which would affect me, but also me being born so small. Luckily, the C-section went well. My mom survived, so thank God for that. I survived, and here's the part that I think is just the most glorifying moment in terms of glorifying God and just the work He does for people and for my family and on me. Being a baby of that size and being born so early and being a pound and about 13 or 14 ounces, you would assume that there would be something wrong with me development-wise. So you would assume that an organ of mine would not develop fully and that something would happen, some type of complication. Nothing happened. I was just small in size, that was it. My brain was developed well, my heart, my lungs, every little organ, I had all my fingers and all my toes and all my eyes. Nothing was wrong. And you would think a baby who was born 2 or 3 months before their time, something would be wrong because that happens often to other premature babies. But for some reason, nothing was wrong with me. And the doctors couldn't even understand why. They were expecting the worst, preparing for the worst. They were expecting for something to be wrong with me, and nothing was wrong with me. That part always gives me chills because it's wow, me. I'm sitting in front of you today. That's part of my testimony, the fact that I was born so small and there was a 50% chance that I could have survived and my mom could have survived, and we were on the lucky end and the positive end, God had favor over our lives and saved my mom and saved me, and I'm here today standing in front of you telling my story. That's absolutely insane to me, and it's just insane to think back, nothing was wrong, no complication, and I can't imagine what the doctors were feeling. They're what the world? You're great, you're fine, you just need to grow. And that's why they gave me the name the Miracle Baby. Actually, they just couldn't understand. That to me was just a clear sign of God, covering my mom and myself, and things could have got worse, and just the fact that the doctors just couldn't understand. As humans, we have a very limited knowledge of things going on. Our level of knowledge is nowhere near God's level of knowledge, and You know, when his hands over your life, he will do supernatural things that you can't explain or understand. And that was a supernatural thing that they couldn't explain or even understand. I went from being 1 pound and 13, 14 ounces on the verge of, potentially not surviving birth, and my mom not even surviving giving birth, to being here sitting in front of you telling my story to you today. Like, I'm not nervous, my heart's not pounding. I am just so on fire to tell you this testimony because I've never ever sat down and processed this. I've never ever sat down and shared this with anybody. I never ever even thought, before my mom mentioned to me that this is my testimony, the fact that I'm here today and that God supernaturally allowed me to form, even though it's just insane. Man, that's my testimony. Alright, if you guys enjoyed this video and you wanted to officially join the Classy Crew, which is the community I'm building on this channel, go ahead and hit that little red subscribe button down below. And while you're at it, don't forget to ring that little bell too right next to the button so you can officially get notified whenever I upload new videos. And no pressure at all, but if you guys feel called to or want to share a piece of your testimony or a thing that you're grateful that God has done for you in your life, feel free to comment down below. I would love to read it, and I think the Classy Crew would really benefit from it. I will see you guys in the next video, and don't forget to stay classy, which means cherish life and simply surprise yourself. Bye!